lesson. Today we're going to be covering animal habitats and food chains. Bring your notebook and pencil and write down the important definitions and the processes and what do they mean. Now, what is a habitat? A habitat is a natural environment that an animal lives in. So a habitat, it provides an animal with three important things: food, shelter, and a safe place to raise their young ones, right? So each animal requires a certain type of habitat, right? So each, according to what they eat, and like where do they want to live, the temperature of their environment, right? So you can see how each of them um, can match with their habitat, right? So if you didn't guess already, the frogs need to be in a place where there's a pond or there's still water, or like a place where they can find, bugs and all those kind of stuff to eat. Now a polar bear is basically have is basically living in the Antarctica, or like frozen places. It has a thick skin with fur, so it really enjoys really cold weather. Now, a monkey basically lives in a forest where he can find all the bananas he can have, right? And a bird basically needs, some type of tree top or branches so they can build their nest, right? So as I said, these animals kind of adapt to their environment. Like I said, the frog is basically, trying wants to live in a place where there are bugs because he has a tongue that can actually stick to the bugs, or the polar bear has a very thick skin, or the monkey can like have uh, this thumb in their hands. They can pick up stuff with it, and they can climb trees with it, right? And these type of birds, their beak and basically their feathers and their size all differ according to the environment living in, right? So let's come in detail. Let's talk about frogs, okay? They eat insects such as flies, cockroaches, and spiders. They are caught by the frog's long, sticky tongue. The bigger the frogs can eat, bigger animals like mice and birds, right? So um, camouflage so they are that they are less visible to predators such as otters, birds, and fish. So what this means is they can change color of their skin according to the place they're in. They can turn green or gray, and this is a chemical reactions happen in their skin. It's a way of protection, right? So water, they actually need it for drinking, for laying their eggs in it. So their eggs only produce those babies when they're in the waters. This means frogs are best suited to live in such places where there's water, such as near a pond or a lake. Okay, now what is a predator? Now this is a key definition, is an animal that hunts other animals. So basically a frog is a predator for the flies and the cockroaches and the spiders and all of those. Now the polar bear, the food that they eat is seals and reindeer and fish, right? So they can even use their sense of smell to find seals hiding under the snow. So they have very high sense of smell, and they can basically catch fish if they want to with their claws, right? So a camouflage, so they are harder to spot, right? So they're white, They live in a place where there's a lot of snow, which is also white. Their see-through fur reflects the white of the snow through them and lets them blend in. Now, sea ice. They like it for hunting and living and breeding. They're basically enjoying the very cold weather, right? So the polar bears are the best suited to live in um, Arctic circles, so or like very very cold places with huge amounts of snow. What? So what do the birds eat when we say they like to live in this certain habitat? So they like berries, worms, and small insects. Now, the bird basically needs all the nutritions they get from these types of, you know, other animals or insects. That's why they eat them. Okay, they can also easily catch them, right? So they are less visible to predators when the bird is like brownish color or sometimes greenish color. They are protected by their feathers. So they need material for nest building, such as twigs and leaves, all the stuff that they need. They're best suited to live in places where there are plenty of trees, such as woods, gardens, and parks. Right. Um, what do lions need in their habitat? Now, the first thing is water to stay hydrated in hot conditions. A prey, something they can eat, right? It's usually a zebra or some type of deer or anything they basically they can eat. They can actually put their hands on, right? Which has a lot of meat. Um, so they need long grass to hide in whilst they hunt their prey. So they kind of need they don't need to run away from any other predator. There there are no predators that for eating lions. Um, you can argue lions can fight with each other and they can hurt each other or something, but this type of animal, they are the wild beasts of the habitats, and they basically only need a place to hide so they can hunt something else. Right. So this is also a key definition. A prey, it's an animal that is hunted by and eaten by another. So lions are best suited to living in places where there are plenty of zebras to eat. There's long grass to hide in, such as plains of Africa, in which we mostly find them, right? Now, dogs are also sometimes wild animals. Sometimes we keep them as pets, but mostly they're wild animals, right? So they need water to stay hydrated for all conditions. They need a prey, such as mice, voles, rabbits, and other small animals. They can be caught and eaten, right? So pet dogs are fed a diet of either dry food or meat by their owners. Now this diet really just tones down how wild the dog is. Now it's a thing that when the owners have dogs or pets, they don't usually give them meat. They give them sort of like a special food that they're made. Um, they're basically all the nutritions that the dog needs, but they don't turn that wild when they eat dry food or like the meat that their owners present. It depends on the type of the dog as well. Okay? Now, a den to feel safe in. In the wild, this is a warm, dry place, like a cave. Um, but for a pet dog, this would be a bed, basically, a place where it's warm and cozy. So this means wild dogs are best suited to living in places where there is plenty of water, caves to stay dry in. Pet dogs are best suited to living in with their owners in a warm, dry house. Right. Now, let's talk about pandas. The pandas need food and water to stay healthy and hydrated in all conditions. Both they come from bamboo, which grows in cool forests. They also eat other plants and even small rodents. So they basically live in or places that have bamboo sticks in it. So mostly in Japan, China, all those places. So they need a place to hide in for their habitat. The panda's white fur helps it hide in the snow in the mountains, while the black patches help it to hide in the shade. Right? So they are best suited to live in places where there's a plenty of bamboo, and places to hide in, such as forests. Right? Now foxes, now they're every animal needs to stay hydrated, so there must be a source of water. Now when we say water, it doesn't mean that the whole habitat is watery like frogs, but they need to drink it, and that's it. Now priests such as birds and mice, they're scavengers, so which means they will eat almost anything like insects, earthworms, fruit, berries, and food waste left by humans. So a den to live in, this is usually a hole under the ground. This means foxes are better suited to live in places where there's a plenty of water, prey, and somewhere where um, to hide in. So, so some of these animals are extinct. Now, extinct are basically extinct means there are no more of that animal or species left in the world. So it's really good to know, because there are types of, this is not, when we say extinct, we're not just talking about dinosaurs that are extinct. We are talking about types of birds. Now pandas are in danger of extinction because they are, their numbers are very, very few in the world. And the last time some panda gave birth was every person in the country. I think it was in Japan. They all declared it a holiday. Right. Now, I want you to sort out, pause the video and sort out each animal and in categories of living and extinct. Now, you can see it because you're familiar with it, but if you haven't seen it in like TV, real life sometimes, or even like books and textbooks, you can realize which one of them are. Right. So the ones that look very, very weird are the ones that are gonna be extinct. But we'd see dogs and lions and pandas. Right. Now, unfortunately, this one used to be around, but it's not anymore. Right. All right. So this is one part of our lesson. Feel free to pause the video and take a rest. Food chains is the most important part of this lesson. We talk about food chains because we want to know where all of these animals actually get their energy from. Now, understanding how this works is, in the beginning, is like is to analyze how this works from the source. Now, the source of our energy on Earth is the energy particles are eaten by other animals, and these other animals are eaten by other animals, and those animals, and so on, right? So this whole source of energy comes from the sun. Now um, we want to categorize these this chain that I just explained in 4 categories: a consumer, a producer, and it's also you can say prey and a predator. Now we're gonna be talking about each category in a bit, but obviously if you see, a producer is always is a plant, okay? And a consumer is basically something that's eating the producer or the plant. And the predator, as we just mentioned, is basically the animal that eats the prey, right? So a short definition for producer are plants that make their own food, obviously from the sun, right? And the nutritions from the ground and the water. Consumers are animals that eat the food, right? They can be the caterpillar we just saw. They can be the mice that eat for example, the insects, or it can also be the wolf that eats the mice and consumes it. Right? Can you pause the video and identify which one of these are producers and consumers? So, as I said, the consumers, they can be any type of animal that eats something else. But producers are always plants. So lettuce and broccoli, they're producers. The rest, they're all consumers. Right. Now, this is very important. Now, the way we put this in science books, so all the scientists around the world understand each other and understand how, for example, a food chain works. We have this arrow. Now, using this arrow is very important. It means eaten by something. So the first one is eaten by something. So it indicates the direction of the energy or the energy flow. Okay? So all food chains obviously start with a producer. So they always start with a plant. Okay? Arrows are used in the food chain to show who's eaten by who. Now, are these arrows going in the right direction? Does it have a producer? You need to check, right? Now, let's see this question. Now, let's read the question below and use the answer button to reveal the answer. Now, we have a bunch of questions, such as these. What do all food chains start with? We just answered that. It's a producer. It's a plant. Name a predator and its prey. I'll wait. You can answer. Right. So, a fish and a bear. A bear. Okay. Are penguins the prey of polar bears? So let's see. No. So penguins live in Antarctic and polar bears live in Arctic. So obviously, if they were living in the same place, they would eat each other. I mean, not each other. The polar bear would eat the penguin, right? But they're not living in the same place. Okay. Now let's give an example of a consumer that makes honey. Consumer that makes honey. Bees, right? So they're consumers because they consume plants. Okay, they live off of the flower pollens and they make honey. Right. So including the fox, meaning when we say write down a food chain, it must always start with the producer, which is the grass, and the grass is eaten by a rabbit, the fox eats the rabbit, and the bear eats the fox. This is a food chain. You cannot start from the rabbit, you cannot start from the fox, you cannot start with the bear. You only need to start with the grass. What do the arrows in a food chain show? Now, it shows the energy flow. So something is eaten by it. By the way, this is not a food chain. This is just a part of the food chain, and that indicates energy flow. So the fish is eaten by the bear. So you can translate the arrow as eaten by. Can we name a consumer? Let's name a consumer is something that eats something, literally anything besides plants. Good work. Gorilla, monkeys, and lions, and squirrels. Okay, let's name a producer. Now, a producer is always a plant. Any plant works. All right. Thank you for listening. We're going to be doing a quiz about this lesson, next lesson as well. I hope you